on the Giant Dipper roller coaster at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in California. You know, I found another way to make people scream on the Great American Thrill Ride. So why don't you join us as America Screams? I guarantee you have nothing to lose except your nerve. You know, I've always loved amusement parks, and especially roller coasters. I celebrated every birthday from my 7th year to my 17th at Forest Park Highlands in St. Louis, Missouri. And then, later on, with my kids in tow, we sampled more than our share of big and small amusement parks all over the country. You know, for 100 years now, Americans have been enjoying amusement parks and their thrill rides. It all started on a beach very similar to Santa Cruz, except 3,000 miles away in New York City. It was called Coney Island. And it was in the 1860s that the people of New York were finding relief from the crowded city life by taking their weekends at Coney Island Beach. Ocean swimming was a new sport for the American people, and the girls in their scanty swimming suits were creating a new kind of American scenery. Thanks a million. You see, even a gourmet cook never loses his taste for a good old American hot dog. It was in Coney Island in 1867 that the hot dog was invented by a young pie vendor named Charles Feltman, who experimentally put a Vienna sausage into a Kaiser roll. Now, he called his new food concoction Red Hots. But when a newspaper article questioned what the content of the meat was, the term hot dog was invented. Now, Coney Island's other famous invention came along in 1884, when a Sunday school teacher named Lamarcus Thompson invented the roller coaster. Even though it was just 30 feet high and 450 feet long, it caused wonderful shrieks and screams, and it became America's first thrill ride. From there on, it was non-stop madness. Soon, Coney Island began to overflow with roller coasters and thrill rides, and by the turn of the century, it became America's first amusement center. Actually, Coney Island consisted of 3 separate amusement parks: Steeplechase Park, Luna Park, and Dreamland. Steeplechase Park was the first of these when it was opened in 1897 by George Tilliou, the founder of the American amusement park. His Steeplechase Park was famous for having the first fun house, called the Pavilion of Fun. Steeplechase Park's top bill ride was the Steeplechase Horse Race. Another strange contraption at Dreamland was called the Leapfrog Railway. The two cars didn't have anywhere to go but towards each other, but they took care of that. Luna Park featured the Shoot the Chutes. It was such a popular ride that even the elephants got in on it. By the Roaring '20s, due to Coney Island's success and the fame it achieved worldwide, there were over 1,000 amusement parks across the United States. Americans were involved in a love affair with roller coasters. And so every amusement park claimed to have the highest, longest, fastest, greatest, the ultimate roller coaster. One of these coasters certainly succeeded in being the most frightening. It was the Cyclone of Crystal Beach near Buffalo, New York. And it was so terrifying that a nurse was kept in attendance at the station to assist the fainters. And of course, the food staple for the thrill-seeking coaster-riding Americans was the good old American hot dog. Many of those great traditional amusement parks which followed in Coney Island's footsteps are today still among the best in the country. Like Lagoon, out west in Salt Lake City, Utah, many were built by trolley and railroad companies away from the city at the end of their lines in order to give people an incentive to ride them on the weekends. Such parks were simply termed trolley parks. Today, besides providing the usual shrieks and screams, Lagoon is expanded to present a wide variety of entertainment and education. Its pioneer village is an authentic reproduction and tribute to the Utah pioneers and their lifestyle 100 years ago. Across the Rocky Mountains from Lagoon is Elitch's Gardens in Denver, Colorado, another of the traditional amusement parks. Not a trolley park, Elitch's began simply as a flower garden in 1890. And by the 20s, rides were added and it blossomed into a full-fledged amusement park, although the emphasis on the garden atmosphere remains. The Elitch Theater became the Western showcase for Broadway, and today is America's oldest summer theater, while the Twister roller coaster is one of the best rides in the country. Besides being an exciting ride, it's a beautiful coaster. Any art lover can appreciate its structural beauty and carefully designed woodwork. You know, roller coasters have that rare combination of artistic design for a practical purpose. Screaming. Let's take a ride on the Twister. And if you can, take a look around and enjoy its physical beauty. The man who designed the Twister is acknowledged as one of the great designers of wooden roller coasters, Mr. John Allen.
The design of a roller coaster is very simple. Of course, we have to thank Isaac Newton for most of it, although now, with space-age technology, they say that he wasn't always correct in his formulas for gravity. However, until something better comes along, I still use his formulas. The Mr. Twister in Denver, Colorado, was originally designed as a figure eight with a lot of curves. However, in the first year, it turned out to be a dud. And this is the one reason why I say that curves do not do anything for people. So we added on to the original coaster, which was 72 feet high, went up 98 foot 6, and added straight coaster, in other words, a regular traditional coaster to it, and blended in with the curved ride. The Great American Screen Machine, built in Atlanta, Georgia, is one of the highest at that time that I had designed. This is a very fast ride, very high drops, and comes into the brakes on a 45-foot radius curve, which really ends up the ride with a lot of screens. Really, in a coaster, the lines that I put on paper do not mean very much unless the contractors and the builders that are going to follow these lines do follow them very precisely. The Rebel Yell at King's Dominion is a straight out and back coaster, although it is a double track coaster, placed side by side where two trains race each other from beginning to end.
I'll never forget one time, I was so enamored of the amusement park called POP, Pacific Ocean Park, on the Santa Monica Pier in California, that when I read it was going to close, I went down the last day to sort of say goodbye to the old girl, and I conned the concessionaire of the roller coaster to let me take the last ride alone. Well, it turned out to be the last ride, because as we came to the top of the first big rise, the car stopped. And I had to get out and climb down the rickety old wooden structure with the sea thundering down below. It was marvelous fun. Unfortunately, several hundred roller coasters and amusement parks met the same fate as Pacific Ocean Park and Palisades Park. And the 1,000 parks of the 1920s dwindled down to just 200 by the 1950s. Most of them were sadly torn down, while still others met a more violent death. For a while, it looked like amusement parks were to become a thing of the past. that in 1955, a man named Walt Disney opened a park which became the most famous amusement park in the world, Disneyland. Unlike the previous traditional amusement parks, Walt Disney's idea was to divide Disneyland into specific themes, around which he fit the rides and attractions to blend into that theme, whether it be the rivers of Frontierland or the world of Tomorrowland. As the first theme park, Disneyland was a monumental success and led the way for a second rapid growth across the country, this time of theme parks. The first of the successful non-Disney theme parks opened in 1961. It was called Six Flags Over Texas, located between Dallas and Fort Worth. Its 6 themed areas patterned themselves after the 6 different flags which had flown over Texas throughout its history. The flags are those of Spain, France, England, the United States, the Confederacy, and of course the Lone Star of Texas. Six Flags Over Texas not only started the rapid growth of theme parks across the country in the early 70s, it introduced modern versions of old ride favorites, like the Runaway Mine Train, which became the first of the new steel roller coasters. Another old ride, the Shoot the Chutes, was brought back to life to become one of my favorites, the Log Flume. It gives you a chance to shoot the rapids in your own hollowed-out log.
As you can see, this is quite a gentle little ride. Nothing to scream about, really. Oh, except for one little surprise at the end.
It was a very good ride, very refreshing.
I was stupid and I sat in the front. These guys didn't help much by putting their hands in there either.
All of the new rides introduced by theme parks across the country have led to a second mad race to present the ultimate roller coaster, particularly in the new steel models.
The Runaway Mine Train eventually led to the Speed Racer, which introduced very tight spirals along its course, such as the Big Bend of Six Flags Over Texas. Soon, steel coasters started going upside down, like Cedar Point's Corkscrew. The Corkscrew led to the vertical loop coasters, of which there are all types and varieties across the country. The Loch Ness Monster of Busch Gardens in Virginia features interlocking loops. The Shockwave of Six Flags Over Texas has 2 consecutive loops. The Mindbender of Six Flags Over Georgia in Atlanta has 1, 2, 3 loops. However, the steel coaster I personally find the most wonderfully terrifying is what is known as the shuttle loop, such as the King Cobra of King's Dominion in Virginia. You see, it's one thing to go forward through a vertical loop, but then to travel up a dead-end track, stop, and fall through the same loop backwards. That's fun. Although it's absolutely true that roller coasters are the main draw, amusement parks and theme parks like King's Dominion still find it important to appeal to the whole family by offering as many different kinds of entertainment and amusement as they possibly can. From the moment a family enters a theme park, there must be an attractive setting, something that will work as an enticement and promise of a fun-filled day. For this purpose, King's Dominion has its International Street, where popular cartoon characters greet guests and serve as ambassadors of fun. The emphasis is placed on family togetherness to make sure the parents and kids aren't separated during their visit, and that everywhere they turn, they're in a clean and lovely environment. This is where theme plays an important role. It doesn't really matter so much what the theme is, whether you're supposed to be in the Wild West or at the North Pole, as long as it is carried out fully. Wild animal preserves are another type of varied entertainment. And quite often, they too can create a few thrills.
Roller coasters, however, still remain the king of the amusement and theme parks, especially those space-age supersonic steel monsters. Now, the company that designs and builds these delightful terrors is the Arrow Development Company in California.
The Runaway Mine Train and the Flume Ride were Arrow's first rides that really got us into the large amusement park rides. It's sort of interesting how they came about. In the case of the Flume Ride, Carl Bacon, who was at that time president of the company and one of the founders of the company, happened to be watching a television program on the logging industry in the Northwest. And he was watching how the lumberjacks, to get their kicks, would ride the logs down the flume. And Carl thought, wouldn't that make an interesting ride if we could convert it into an amusement park ride? Well, within 4 years, we were testing sections of a model, and from that it developed into small, medium, and extremely large flume rides, of which we have more than 50 scattered around the world at the present time. The Runaway Mine Train ride was duplicating what existed in some of the mining areas throughout the West and other parts of the country, where the vehicles were made to resemble an ore car body and allow the people to ride in that and experience what many miners had experienced, much to their dismay, when the system got out of control and ran away. The Runaway Mine Train was the forerunner of the corkscrew because it was our first all-steel coaster system. We have developed with the corkscrew upside-down rides, which seem to be very popular in amusement parks nowadays. And one of the new systems that we're working on right now is a launch system where the trains start off in a loading area, approximately 60 feet off the ground, are catapulted from that area down a track by a system quite similar to what they use to catapult an airplane off an aircraft carrier. New rides, the major rides, and the promotable rides for amusement parks have become extremely expensive. And because they are so expensive, here again, they need to be highly promotable, and they need to have capacity. Capacity is a function of how many people per unit time leave the station, pure and simple. It's not how long the system is, it's how many people per unit time leave the station. A ride that may cost $1 million should have at least 1,500 an hour capacity. Sometimes in the development of a new ride concept, we can come very close to the new track configuration by using the scale model railroad track. From this, we then make it into a model and also convert it into an artist's conception, such as we're doing here on this ride, which we're working on now. Sometimes we find it difficult to originate a conception on a two-dimensional drawing, so we will make a static model so that other people can understand it. When we come up with an idea for a new thrill ride, or screen maker, if you will, such as a suspended coaster, one of the first things that we do is that we come up with an artist's conception of the ride. Then many times we find that to check the ride dynamics, we make a scale model such as this. Pete, can you let it drop now? We made a full-scale test section for the prototype suspended coaster because one of the most important things we needed to check was how it felt. That's all important in a thrill ride. If it looks fantastic but doesn't feel good, then it's not going to be a popular ride, and the parks won't want it because their patrons won't want to ride it.
Going upside down in an amusement park on many different types of rides is becoming the rule rather than the exception.
It's outrageous. You're flying upside down.
I don't know, it feels like you're flying. It's like, I don't know. I got on the ride because I enjoy going upside down. It's great. It was horrible. How you go upside down, around and around, it like knocks your head back and it makes you feel all dizzy.
Specialized groups, such as you folks, roller coaster maniacs.
Have you ever heard of a coaster-rite? Well, coaster-rite is a term for one who travels the country riding roller coasters. By now, it has become such a popular pastime that a meeting of the coaster-rites took place at the first National Roller Coaster Conference, held at Cedar Point Amusement Park in Sandusky, Ohio. Marathon riders, authorities, sociologists, and psychologists all gathered to discuss and ride on roller coasters.
And I'm sure that there's specialized knowledge here. In fact, some of it strikes me as a little ironic. I was mentioning yesterday that from what I can gather, the front of the roller coaster is really less stressful, after all, than the back part of the roller coaster to anybody who seems to ride them regularly. That doesn't mean that there aren't special pleasures of the front, but the point is that the first time you're worried about a roller coaster, you might be better off riding in the front, because you're not at the tail end of the whip, essentially. Now, the average fellow getting on a roller coaster, I'm sure, as did I until finding this out, would have thought, oh boy, the most dangerous place must be the front, because you're right there, and it's right, you know, nobody in front of you to tell you how to act and so on. It must be the worst place, so I'm going to get in the safe part of the back. Because that's what we do, you know, we get in the back of buses, we get in the back of planes and so on. We figure that's the safe part. Well, there's a certain irony here, it seems to me, because the guy who says, I'm going to prove how macho I am, I'm going to really conquer my fear, I'm going to get in the toughest place, and he gets in front. When he finishes the ride, he must feel like, gee, it wasn't so bad after all, in many cases. Whereas that poor milquetoast fellow who gets in the back, he's probably never going to ride again. So one of the things you might predict is that people who ride in the front of roller coasters are more likely to ride again. People who ride in the back for the first time are less likely to bother to go on it again, just because of this kind of discrepancy.
I've ridden on every roller coaster in the country by this time. That's about 150.
I'll never forget my first trip, first roller coaster trip. I went with a friend, and we went across the country, and in 1 month, we rode 81 different roller coasters. It was about 5 rides apiece. Yeah, it was about 400 to 500 rides total on that trip. What makes a good roller coaster? Well, it's not the size of it. It's how a roller coaster's drops and turns are put together to make one non-stop ride. You can have a mile-long coaster, but if it's boring, that's not going to do you any good. Better a half a mile and a lot of turns, a lot of dips, one after the other, so that by the time you pull to the station, you say, hey, that was great, you know, and it's over with, and you have to go on it again to realize just what happened. That's a great roller coaster.
I brought my model here to Cedar Point's Coaster Mania conference because since Cedar Point just opened up one of the world's largest roller coasters, I thought I'd bring the world's smallest operating coaster. It took me 2 years to build this model, and it's my conception of what type of roller coaster would be built today by one of the modern coaster designers, such as John Allen, if a park ordered a roller coaster with a limited amount of space available to build it. This is not one of the double racing designs. It's a single track design. You can see it's folded back on itself several times. This is to save space. I built this model piece by piece from balsa wood, and the whole works was assembled by hand and painted by hand. And I had no computer to help me with this like they do when they build a real thing. My next project will be a little bit larger and more ambitious than this one. I'm not quite sure which direction I'm going to go yet. It may be one of these corkscrew type upside down looping coasters, or it might be a double racer. Who knows, but it'll be bigger.
Well, last year, after exhausting all our coaster resources here in California, we decided to head out to Denver, where we heard there was an assortment of roller coasters. We got in the car, took the trip to Denver, and sure enough, we found a coaster that we love a lot, and that's Mr. Twister in Elitch's Garden. First time we got on that ride and took the first drop, it just blew our heads right off. We couldn't believe it. In fact, it reminded us of a coaster that's dear to our hearts here in California called Belmont. The Mission Beach roller coaster. And we started going down there, and a friend of mine and I got into riding, to doing different moves on the coaster, standing up and changing cars, and the operators got to know us and allowed us to do so. It was like putting on a show for the people. And we got into a thing, they let us ride continuous. So we would ride, you know, like first time we got on, or second time we were on it, we rode 64 times non-stop, doing our little acrobatics. Next time we came back, Jan came with me, and we rode 49 times. She's the only girl I've known that can sit on a coaster like that and ride 49 times.
I definitely like wood roller coasters a lot better. I find that the thrill that you get on the wood, you can't get on the metal roller coasters. You don't get the movement, you don't get the whole feel like you do on the wood.
The metal ones feel tame.
Yeah, you don't worry about
Metal
them.
coasters are tame, you know, like the wood coaster. I think there's an element of fear in the average rider's head. They're getting on that and they see that wood flexing and they think, whoa, maybe we're not going to make it back to the station. And I think that's a very important part. In fact, next year, we're going to go back east to the Pennsylvania, Ohio area, try and hit the New York, New Jersey area, because there's more wood roller coasters per square mile in that area than anywhere else in the country. We figure we can go back there and take 3 weeks and we can probably canvas some 20 some odd wood roller coasters.
The race for the ultimate roller coaster is stronger now than it was even during the 20s, as one theme park after another strives to achieve the ultimate.
Why build a 6th roller coaster when we had 5 already? We wanted to have a granddaddy coaster, highest in the world, steepest in the world, and a double racing coaster with high capacity so people would keep coming back to the park. The reason for it is the marketability of a coaster is so great. People love roller coasters, and they will come back every year to ride on a roller coaster. And if you want some proof of that, all you have to do is take a look at the people coming in over my shoulder.
As part of the long-term growth and planning at Kings Island, we think the addition of the Beast is a very positive way to grow. First of all, coasters have proven to be highly marketable by other parks that have built new rides. And secondly, it helps us to continue to build the balance between shows and other attractions that make the guest visit enjoyable. The Beast is very unique. First of all, it's the longest coaster that's ever been built at 7,400 feet in length. When the rider's at the top of the first hill, they will go 135 feet to the bottom through the first tunnel. At that point, there's a sharp bank turn. They'll probably be reaching speeds 70 miles per hour at this point. The second hill is 72 feet to the bottom at approximately 32 degrees. As they continue their journey on around the back portion of the ride, they'll enter the second tunnel, a sharp bank, and then back through the third tunnel. then along a steep ravine at the rear of the park, and back to the last incline or the second chain lift. At this point, you'll go up 141 feet to the top, and then ascend down at 18 degrees, the longest incline in the world, a 540-degree or 1.5 revolutions through the enclosed helix. You'll then go back to the station, and we think probably you'll have ridden the world's biggest and longest, fastest roller coaster. The Beast has many unique, one-of-a-kind characteristics, and certainly one of those is the fact that it's built through the beautiful, natural, rugged terrain of southern Ohio. Another unique characteristic is that the rider will not have an opportunity of seeing any portion of the experience until they're at the top of the first hill. That's 135 feet from that point until they reach the bottom of the first hill. At that point, they're actually in a tunnel that is like a strong red ball of fire at the bottom. The rider will then exit the first tunnel on his way to the second tunnel that's surrounded by red fog. That illusion is unique, but even more unique is perhaps that of the third tunnel. Upon exiting the third tunnel, you will think that you're going off the track into a ravine, where in reality the track turns to the right and heads you on towards the remaining portion. Perhaps another strong characteristic of this ride is the fact that the terrain is very hilly and natural. And we've taken every advantage of that terrain to build what we think is America's most unique roller coaster.
Another entry in the coaster arms race was Colossus of Magic Mountain in California. Its objective, to be one of the largest roller coasters in the world. To keep the mammoth structure secure, cement footers had to go 20 feet into the ground. Over 1.2 million board feet of lumber was used. All of the older roller coasters were made of wood because wood was easier to work with in the early 1900s, and it was less expensive than steel. With today's advances in technology and with lumber prices, that's no longer true. Yet parks still lean towards wooden roller coasters because everyone knows that a real, honest-to-goodness, original roller coaster just has to be made of wood. Douglas fir from the Oregon forest is preferred because of its flexible durability. It gives a coaster both supportive strength and a smooth ride. The tracks themselves are also wooden and are formed by bending boards stacked 7 high. On top of these boards, a metal strip is laid on which the top wheels of the train run. The train also has side wheels to keep it on its course and under wheels to keep them from leaving the track. When the tracks are laid, the final task is to test the trains, using weights until they are ready for passengers. I know we can talk all we want about size and expense, but the only way to find out just how good a roller coaster really is to try it. So let's try this one. It's called Colossus. Please don't be afraid to scream. I mean, after all, that's what scream makers are for. By now, we've found out that nothing can make me scream. Nothing. not even the highest, longest, fastest roller coaster